He had it all: wealth, success, and a picture-perfect life. But one wrong decision, one secret affair, and one deadly mistake. Now, someone is watching. Someone knows. I know what you did. When love turns to blackmail and power turns to blood, how far will he go to keep his secrets buried? This is not just a story. Brace yourselves. The truth is coming. Kolapo Aderemi had long graduated from the university with a degree in business administration. But like many Nigerian graduates, the reality of unemployment hit him hard. Job hunting became a frustrating cycle of rejection letters and unreturned applications. He had tried everything, applying to banks, corporate offices, even small businesses, but nothing came through. His savings dwindled, and he found himself struggling to even afford basic needs. Then, one day, an opportunity came: a security job at a bank. It wasn't what he had studied for, but it was something, and so, without hesitation, he took the job. Surprisingly, Kolapo enjoyed being a security guard. He wasn't the kind of person to let his situation bring him down. Every time he opened or closed the bank's heavy gates for customers, he did it with enthusiasm, adding a little dance move that made people smile. His lively spirits and funny dance moves quickly made him popular. Some customers would even tip him, handing him small envelopes filled with cash, sometimes even more than his monthly salary. Others bought him food, clothes, and little gifts to show their appreciation. One particular afternoon, while Kolapo was busy doing his usual dance as he opened the gate, a sleek black Range Rover drove in. The back seat window slightly wound down. That was when he saw her. Moturayo Ojo, a stunningly beautiful woman in her early 40s, with flawless skin, an air of confidence, and an elegance that commanded attention. She stepped out of her car gracefully and walked into the bank, her red designer handbag swinging by her side. From the way the bank staff rushed to attend to her, it was clear that she was someone important. Kolapo continued his work, not thinking much of it, until a few minutes later when she walked out of the bank. She rolled down the window and signaled him to come closer. Kolapo hesitated before stepping forward, wiping his sweaty forehead with the back of his hand. "What's your name?" she asked, her voice smooth like honey.
Kolapo ma.
He replied respectfully. She smiled and handed him a card. "Call me." Kolapo stared at the complimentary card in his hand, his heart pounding. Who was she? What did she want? At first, Kolapo was hesitant about calling her.
What would a woman like that want with a simple security guard?
But curiosity got the better of him, and he eventually dialed her number. Their first conversation was simple. She asked about his life, his struggles, and his dreams. Unlike other rich people, she didn't talk down on him. She listened instead, and before he knew it, one call became 2, then 3, and soon they were talking almost every day. Moturayo started taking care of Kolapo. She bought him expensive clothes, even upgraded his phone to the latest model. She would send him money, sometimes more than his entire salary in one transfer. Before long, their relationship evolved into something deeper. Kolapo enjoyed the attention, but deep down, something didn't feel right. One evening, while sitting at the local bar with his childhood friend Kunle, he finally opened up.
Kunle, this thing between me and Moturayo, I don't know how I feel about it.
Kunle, a cheerful and street-smart guy, took a long sip from his beer before talking.
My guy, what's the problem? You know they enjoy good things.
Kolapo sighed.
I am, but it's moving too fast. She's always spending on me, giving me things. She's even older than I am, and I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Kunle clapped him on the back.
Kolapo, you be mumuni? This life na sharp guy life. Women like that don't come every day. Instead of worrying, enjoy the ride. Chop life before life chop you.
Kolapo laughed nervously, but something about Kunle's words made him uneasy. Kolapo continued the relationship, pushing his worries aside, Motorayo treated him like a king, and though he knew the balance of power was in her favor, he allowed himself to enjoy the luxury. Then, one evening, something happened that changed everything. They were having lunch at a posh restaurant in Bodija, one of those high-class places where the air smelled like wealth. The waiter had just placed their meals on the table when, out of nowhere, Motorayo knelt down. Kolapo nearly choked on his drink.
Ah, Rayo, what are you doing?
She smiled and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a stunning diamond ring. Kolapo, marry me. Silence filled the restaurant. People turned to watch, some gasping, others whispering. The staff stopped in their tracks, their eyes wide. Kolapo's mind went blank. He had never seen this before. A woman proposing to a man? It was supposed to be the other way around. His first instinct was to say no, but then he saw the anticipation on Motorayo's face. More than that, he saw the expectation of the people around him. The other customers were smiling, clapping softly, urging him to say yes. His heart pounded as he turned around and saw the crowd waiting. If he rejected her, he would embarrass her. He could already see the headlines. Wealthy businesswoman rejected in public. He couldn't do that to her, so amid the cheers and laughter, he accepted the ring. The restaurant erupted into applause. Strangers clapped him on the back and the waiters rushed forward with champagne. Kolapo forced a smile, but inside, he felt something shift. Was this really what he wanted? A few months later, Kolapo and Motorayo got married in a grand wedding. The ceremony was extravagant. It was like a feast fit for royalty. Kolapo's dream had finally come true, or at least that's what it looked like from the outside. After their grand wedding, Motorayo gifted him Roller Superstores, a massive supermarket in the heart of Ibadan. It was fully stocked with high quality goods, air conditioned, and had a fleet of delivery vans. At first, Kolapo was excited about managing the supermarket. It felt good to wear crisp shirts, sit in a well-furnished air-conditioned office, and be called Oga Kolapo by the staff. He wanted to prove himself, to show that he was capable of running a business, to build something of his own. But Motorayo never gave him that chance. She micromanaged everything. To the world, Kolapo was a successful businessman, a young man who had married well and risen from a security guard to a supermarket owner overnight. But deep down, Kolapo knew the truth. He wasn't the owner. He was just the manager in a business that wasn't truly his. Motorayo reminded him of that fact every single day. Every morning before Kolapo left for work, his wife would sit him down and lecture him about how he should run the store. Make sure you monitor the sales closely. I don't want any loss. You know how people like to steal? If he adjusted prices or made small decisions without informing her, she would call him immediately. Kolapo, did I not tell you that I handle the finances? Who told you to change anything? Sometimes at the supermarket, she would show up unannounced, inspecting every shelf, questioning every staff member. If a product was missing, she would glare at him. This is why I don't trust you to handle these things alone. Kolapo felt more like an employee than a husband. He was constantly reminded that she owned everything, the business, the house, even him. It didn't matter that he worked hard or that customers respected him. He was only there because Motorayo allowed it. He had no freedom, no say in his own home, no control over his own business. At night, he would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling like a prisoner in a golden cage. He had married a woman who was more of a boss than a wife, and every passing day, the walls of his life closed in tighter. One evening, after another exhausting day at the supermarket, he met his old friend Kunle at a bar. Kunle took one look at him and shook his head.
Kolapo, why do you look like someone who had just lost money?
Kolapo chuckled bitterly.
I wish money was my problem.
Kunle leaned in.
Talk to me, Kola. What is it?
Kolapo sighed.
It's Rayo, my wife. She controls everything. The business, the house, my life. I feel like a stranger in my own marriage. I can't even make a decision without her approval. This marriage is not what people think it is.
Kunle smirked.
And so, not be she give you the life where you dey enjoy like this. Look around you, Kolapo. You dey drink expensive beer. You get business. You dey wear fine clothes. You think say men wey dey suffer for trenches go pity you?
Kolapo sighed.
Kule, it's not about money. I feel like a prisoner.
Kule burst into laughter.
Omo, prisoner wey dey drive big car and dey chop good food. Abeg, Kolapo, don't be a dullard. If your wife is making life hard, then you need something to balance it out.
Kolapo frowned.
Balance? What do you mean?
Kule gave him a knowing look.
My guy, get yourself a side chick. You need excitement. Something fresh. Someone to remind you say you be man.
Kolapo frowned.
Excitement elsewhere?
Kule leaned in, his voice low.
Get a side chick, my brother. Every man deserves peace. If your wife is acting like a lion, find a rabbit to cuddle.
Kolapo laughed, shaking his head.
Kule, you know I can't do that.
Kule grinned.
That's what they all say until they realize how sweet freedom is.
Kolapo waved off the suggestion, but Kule's words stayed in his mind. Maybe Kule was right. Maybe he needed something or someone to remind him of what it felt like to truly be a man. As days passed, Kolapo dismissed the thought of looking for someone else and went about his business. But every time he returned home to Moturayo's sharp words and controlling nature, he found himself longing for an escape. The idea of being with someone who didn't see him as a project or an investment became too tempting to resist. Then, one day, that escape presented itself. Tiwa was young, full of life, and had a smile that could melt even the coldest heart. She had just been employed as a cashier, and from the first day, Kolapo noticed how different she was from his wife. While Moturayo always gave him orders, Tiwa admired him. While Moturayo spoke to him like an employee, Tiwa laughed at his jokes and called him Oga Kola with playful respect. One afternoon, Kolapo was in the storeroom when Tiwa walked in. Her perfume filled the air. Oga, you seem stressed, she said, leaning on the shelf. Hope no problem. Kolapo sighed.
Life is just stressful, my dear.
Tiwa tilted her head and smiled. Sometimes you just need to relax and enjoy. And just like that, everything changed. What started as harmless conversations turned into secret texts. Secret texts turned into late night calls. Late night calls turned into stolen moments behind the supermarket. And soon, Kolapo found himself completely lost in the thrill of his affair. For the first time in years, he felt alive. A few weeks into their affair, Tiwa made her first demand. One evening, as they sat in his car behind the supermarket, she played with his shirt's buttons and pouted. Baby, I have a little problem, she said sweetly. Kolapo raised a brow.
What is it?
She sighed dramatically. I need money, like 2 million naira. Kolapo's heart skipped.
2 million? Tiwa, that's a lot of money.
She traced her fingers along his arm. Baby, you know I love you, but I am struggling and I've not been able to renew my house rent. You are the only one who can help me. Or do you want my landlord to throw me out? Kolapo hesitated, but the fear of losing her made him weak. He transferred the money that night. At the time, he thought that would be the end of it, but he was wrong. 2 weeks later, Tiwa came to him with tears in her eyes. Baby, I am pregnant. Kolapo's entire world stopped. He stood there, mouth open, unable to process what he had just heard.
Pregnant? That wasn't part of the plan.
His heart pounded as he imagined Moturayo finding out. She will destroy him.
Tiwa, this can't be happening.
He whispered.
We need to do something about this.
Tiwa sniffled and nodded. I thought about it too. And if your wife gets to find out, things are going to get worse. Without thinking, he transferred 1 million naira to her. Tiwa wiped her fake tears and kissed him. Thanks, baby. But the truth was, Tiwa was never pregnant. This was all part of her plan. Unknown to Kolapo, Tiwa was not alone in this. She had a partner in crime, her boyfriend Lolu. Lolu had been waiting for her in a small rented apartment across town when she walked in that evening, laughing as she waved her phone. Another one bites the dust. She cheered, showing him the bank alert. Lolu grinned and pulled her into a hug.
I told you he would fall for it.
This was their hustling strategy. Tiwa would find rich married men, seduce them, and then trap them with a fake pregnancy. They would then milk the man for as much money as possible before disappearing to find the next victim. And as for Kolapo, he was just another fool on their list. Kolapo thought everything was over. He had given Tiwa the money and he believed that she had terminated the pregnancy. He started breathing easier, thinking the worst was behind him. Then, one afternoon, as he sat in his office, his phone buzzed. A message from Tiwa. "Baby, we need to talk. It's urgent." Kolapo frowned and called her. She started crying. "Baby, I don't know how to say this, but I'm still pregnant." Kolapo froze.
What? I thought you already took care of it.
Tiwa sobbed harder. "Baby, I used the money for the procedure, but it didn't work. I realized that I was bleeding 2 days after, and so I went back for checkup. The doctor said the pregnancy is still there." Kolapo's world spun.
That's not possible, Tiwa. What do you mean it didn't work?
"I don't know, baby. I'm just as confused as you. The doctor said I need another procedure, but it will cost more." Kolapo's blood ran cold. He suddenly had a horrible feeling. Was Tiwa lying? Was this all a game? He wanted to question her, but fear got the best of him. He transferred another 1 million naira to her. Back at Lolu's house, Tiwa and Lolu laughed as they counted the money. "Kolapo is too easy," Tiwa grinned. "We will bleed him dry before we leave." Lolu kissed her forehead.
That's my girl. You know your job. Now, we stretch it for another month.
Meanwhile, Kolapo's hand trembled as he gripped the steering, feeling his life spiral out of control. Something wasn't right. Something felt off. He wanted to believe Tiwa, but deep down, a voice whispered in his head, "You are being played." He was still lost in thought when he pulled into his compound. He barely had time to shut his car door before Motorayo stormed out of the house, her face like thunder. "Kolapo, where the hell have you been?" she barked. Kolapo swallowed hard.
I was at work.
Motorayo scoffed. "Work? You must think I am stupid. I have been going through the financial records and I noticed huge amounts of money missing. Who gave you the permission to withdraw such amount?" Kolapo's heartbeat quickened. He had been so distracted by Tiwa's demands that he had completely forgotten that Motorayo monitored every single kobo that left their account. "Answer me, Kolapo. Who are you giving my money to?" she demanded, her sharp eyes boring into him. A cold chill ran down Kolapo's spine. Did she already know? Fear gripped him. There was no point in lying now. She would find out anyway. He took a deep breath and muttered,
It's Tiwa.
Motorayo's face hardened. "Who is Tiwa?" Kolapo exhaled heavily.
She's a girl I have been seeing. She told me she was pregnant, and I gave her money to abort it."
For a moment, there was silence. Kolapo braced himself for the explosion. A slap, a scream, maybe even flying objects. But instead, Motorayo let out a slow, humorless laugh. "You fool." Kolapo blinked as Motorayo folded her arms, shaking her head. "She's milking you dry, Kolapo, and you are too stupid to see it. Let me guess, she will soon come up with another plan, right? Maybe this time she will threaten to tell me if you don't give her more money." Kolapo's mouth went dry. It was at that moment that reality dawned on him. What if Tiwa was never pregnant? Kolapo felt sick. He had wasted millions on a scam, all because of his own foolishness. His mind was still reeling when Motorayo's next words shattered his thoughts. "Get rid of her." Kolapo's heart snapped up.
What?
Motorayo stepped closer, her face unreadable. "You have to kill her, Kolapo." Kolapo staggered back.
Rayo, what are you saying?
She exhaled sharply. "People like this are wicked, Kolapo. She won't stop. She will drain you until there is nothing left. If you don't get rid of her, she will destroy you." Kolapo's blood ran cold. He had never imagined that his wife would suggest murder. Motorayo didn't blink. "You better handle this." Kolapo stood frozen, heart pounding. He had crossed many lines in his life, but this was a line he wasn't sure he could ever cross. 2 weeks had passed since Betrayal's chilling words. You have to kill her, Kolapo. If you don't, she will. Kolapo had tried to forget. He had tried to convince himself that Tiwa would disappear on her own, but he was wrong. That morning, his phone vibrated. A message from Tiwa. Kolapo, we need to talk. It's urgent. I know you have been avoiding me, but if you ignore me this time, you will regret it. Kolapo stared at the message, his anger boiling. The guts, the audacity. How dare this small girl threaten him? A man, a father, a business owner. Did she think she could control him forever? And just like that, he made his decision. He sent a message back. Fine, come to my house this evening. We need to settle this once and for all. Tiwa frowned at the message. Kolapo had never asked her to come to his house before. Something felt off. She showed the message to Lolu, her boyfriend. I don't trust this, she said. Lolu chuckled, shaking his head.
Babe, calm down. He's a family man. What can he possibly do to you in his house? He just wants to sort out things with you.
Tiwa nodded slowly. Kolapo was weak. He had always been weak. She sent back a message. I'll be there. That evening, Kolapo welcomed Tiwa into his house. She stepped into the lavish living room, looking around in admiration. Kola forced a smile.
Let's go to the boys' quarters. My wife is home and I don't want any trouble.
Tiwa smirked. Afraid of your madam? Kolapo chuckled.
Just being careful.
In confidence, Tiwa followed him. Inside the small, neatly furnished room, Kolapo gestured for her to sit.
What will you drink?
Tiwa smiled. Give me anything chilled. Kolapo poured a glass of juice. Unknown to her, the juice had been laced with poison. As she took the drink, she had no suspicion. After all, this was the same man who had spent millions on her. She laughed, gisted and sipped. Kolapo watched, waiting. Then it happened. Tiwa's hand suddenly flew to her stomach. Her face twisted in pain. Kolapo, what's happening? Kolapo stayed silent, watching, waiting. Her breathing became erratic. Her fingers trembled, and then she fell to the floor. A final gasp, then stillness. Tiwa was dead. For the first time in weeks, Kolapo felt a strange relief. It was over. No more blackmail, no more threats, no more fear. But then, reality hit.
How do I get rid of the body?
He began pacing. He had never killed anyone before. He didn't know who to call, where to take her. If anyone found out, he was finished. His heart pounded as he reached for his phone, staring at the screen. Then, as if fate had been listening, his phone buzzed. It was Moturayo. Kolapo hesitated, then answered.
It's done.
Moturayo's voice was calm, almost amused. Good. Now, make her disappear. Kolapo's hands trembled as he stared at Tiwa's lifeless body. The reality of what he had done was finally sinking in, but there was no time for regret. His phone was still pressed against his ear when Moturayo's voice came again, sharp and cold. Get rid of the body. Kolapo swallowed hard.
Rayo, I can't do this alone.
She scoffed. You brought this upon yourself, Kolapo. Don't expect me to clean up your mess. His stomach twisted. This wasn't how he thought things would go. He had expected her to handle it, to help him, to use her influence to make the body disappear. But no, she wanted him to do it, alone. Figure it out, she said before hanging up. Kolapo felt like the walls were closing in on him. He stared at the motionless body on the floor. He knew he had no choice. He had to make Tiwa disappear. It took him almost an hour to wrap Tiwa's body in a black plastic bag, his heart thudding with every movement. His hands were stained with guilt, but he had no time to hesitate. He carried the wrapped body out of the boys' quarters, his eyes darting around the compound. No one must see him. After placing it carefully in the trunk of the car, he got in and drove into the night. His destination, the old bridge outside town. Kolapo's fingers were slippery with sweat as he gripped the steering wheel. His mind raced. What if someone saw him? What if the police were already looking for Tiwa? When he reached the bridge, the area was deserted. No cars, no people, just the quiet whispers of the night. He parked at the edge, stopped the engine and stepped out. His body felt heavy as he walked to the trunk and opened it. this is it, no turning back. With one final deep breath, he drags the body out. The weight almost made him stumble, but he held on. His eyes darted left and right. No one was watching. And then, quickly, he threw her over the bridge. For a second, there was silence, and then a splash. Kolapo stood frozen, listening as the water swallowed her whole. It was done. Tiwa was gone, and for the first time in weeks, he felt relief. But will it last? This is just the beginning. If you enjoyed the story and would like to know how the story progressed, please consider subscribing to this channel, not forgetting to turn on the bell notification icon so that once the next part of this video is being posted, you will be the first to be notified. You can also check out these videos here. I promise you won't be disappointed. Till we meet again in my next video, remain blessed.